did you think we were before you began to think of us as human beings?
Well, in a way, we thought of you almost as a very superior pet.
Well, I remember quite well how those Polo children used to have to eat. They were fed in boxes and troughs under the house. They were fed cornmeal mush and beans. When this was poured into their box, they would gather around it, the same as we see pigs, horses, and cattle gather around troughs today.
I can't argue against that. Because Africans, the entire continent of Africans, treat them like they're our owners. We definitely act like pets. Black Americans, before y'all go to say we and our ancestors, yes, you all fucking pets. Black women will see this, will see everything that was done to them. They'll say, no, educated black women need to be with powerful, strong white men. Powerful white men. Do you know what powerful white men have done to you through your history? Black men will get lynched, we will get mobbed, we'll get killed, we'll get everything. We'll start making excuses. Yo, he gonna get his back. Karma, karma, karma. Just like somebody came onto my live yesterday and said everything Black America has done to white people have done to Black Americans are finally getting their lick back. I asked him, what do you mean Black Americans are getting their lick back? Do you know what this man said? He said, look, white kids don't no longer sing rock music. They're all about hip hop now. They're all about this. They're all about that. So we taking away their culture. So I said, that is the wickedest thing I ever heard. They've dominated you. They've taken your culture. You don't control it. And your response is, we getting our lick back. But I want to argue against this. But you see the way our people act. I live in America. You see the way black women talk about these men. We cannot argue. I cannot argue against this. We are definitely the most superior pets they have because we think and we talk, but we are definitely pets.
Is he niet serieus nie? Nou, ek maak nie sulke fokke grappies as ek nie serieus is nie. Huh? Het ek al vir julle gesê ek gaan julle skiet of ek gaan julle met die mes steek? Een man van julle. Huh? Weet julle? Nog nooit nie. Nou wie is jy wat wil die mense kom staan en dreig hierso? Huh? Vertel my. Vertel my.
Ja, hey. Toen je praat. You fucking hell. Kom. Kom nou, wil die petrol gooi man. Kom in. Bring sommer hy slang hoor. Kom, pak uit. Weg. Nee, dan vloek wala man. Okay.
You know what the craziest part is about that video? That guy is probably somewhere online telling people, don't come to South Africa, we don't want you, leave us alone with our whites. Telling other Africans, go back to your shitty country without infrastructure there. My comments talking about Nigeria has no ambulances. So I don't feel bad for them. I really don't. You see videos like this, you hear stories of guy pulling out of a car just to shoot a kid in the leg for no reason. You hear stories about them being chopped up and being served to pigs as food. And then instead of them to want to unite with their other Africans, or even they're 80% of the country, by the way, instead of them to just get the fuck up and kick the fucking dog shit out of these people, no. They're being treated like slaves on their land. They own 20% of the land. They don't own any TV stations. They don't own any radio stations. They don't own any newspapers. They don't own any form of media. But instead, they're online telling other Africans, get out, we don't want you, we're better, blah, 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 leave us, get out of our country. We don't care, we're xenophobic, don't come here. Ain't that, this is you in your own land, by Dutch people, Dutch whites.
Ice Cube says the CIA used gangster rap as a psyop to destroy the black community. Now this is something, if you done any type of research, you already knew.
86% of the hip-hop industry is owned by white men. 75% of that is Jewish. There's only 2 women of color. One of those women of color is an Indian woman. When somebody says, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist for saying that the music is controlled and there's an agenda, there's not an agenda. You're just thinking too much into it. I really want y'all to think about that statistic alone. That ain't a lot to remember. 85% white men, 75% Jewish white men. Only two, not 2%. 2 women of color, and one of them is Indian. There is an agenda. There's always an agenda. By the way, Meg Thee Stallion don't even eat Popeyes. Do with that what you will. But did you know this? Just thought I'd educate you on something. Stop listening to the shit. That's what the fuck you need to learn from this. Stop listening to the shit.
I don't want to... When they attack black people after they've been murdered, when they did absolutely nothing wrong, you're pushing us to the limit. And what do I mean by that? You're asking us to talk about history, the history of the South. This is in Georgia. What happened in Georgia? There were savages in Georgia. It was the ancestors of the white right-wingers. They were absolute savages. They murdered people, they lynched people, they raped people, they enslaved people. They took babies from their mothers and sold them as property. You want to talk about savages? Your ancestors were the biggest savages the world has ever seen. And so don't you dare call a black man a savage after you murdered him. Don't you dare do that. I'm so sick of African Americans being called violent when the world's worst violence was done to them, not by them, to them, not by them. For God's sake, you want to do racist stereotypes? If it fit anywhere, and it doesn't, but if it fit anywhere, it would certainly fit white right-wingers in the South, who has hundreds of years of history of being savages. Savages. They snatched babies and they sold them as property and they raped their mothers. Savages. That's what they were. You want to talk about stereotypes? Screw all of you who still defend that Confederacy, that monstrosity. Anyone who defends that is a barbaric savage.
That's why they don't want to teach American history in public schools. That's why there's been a strong orchestrated effort to prevent the teaching of anything that you just mentioned right now. Because, hey, God forbid that, children learn about the real savages in this country's history.
If you really think about it, white people are such deflectors. You guys literally tried to put the stigma and the notation on us that we're the aggressors, we're just violent, and I don't know, like we're just ready to kill everything we see, when it was y'all. Only in your history are you guys the savages. None in our history does it say that we created or started genocides or we removed cultures from their country and took them to a whole different nation against their will, enslaved.
I've been getting a lot of heat lately, people calling me racist against white people. Well, just in case you haven't noticed, I'm white. My feelings aren't based on racism. They're based on historical facts. Read a history book sometimes and you'll see that Caucasians have enslaved, slaughtered, and massacred anybody who got in the way for them to make more money or progress. Historical facts. White people have been savages for thousands of years. It is what it is.
When the Israelis pick up guns, or the Poles, or the Irish, or any white man in the world says, give me liberty or give me death, the entire white world applauds. When a black man says exactly the same thing, word for word, he is judged a criminal and treated like one, and everything possible is done to make an example of this bad man so there won't be any more like him.
Are there any trends within the black community, such as higher crime rates or higher illegitimacy rates, that could explain their position vis-a-vis whites? And can those be explained by some dominant social group?
No.
No to the first one, or the
no
second one?
No to both.
So there's no.
I mean, there's a propagandistic mechanism that's afloat about, black illegitimacy and black criminality. I guess it depends on what kind of crime you have in mind. If we think about which community in the United States has the highest degree of history of violence, that's unquestionably white Americans. Unquestionably. I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware of the 100 massacres that were conducted between the end of the Civil War and World War II that were directed against black communities throughout the United States, in which thousands of blacks were killed and the white terrorists appropriated black-owned property. So there's no segment of the population that has a greater history of violence than white Americans. So when you talk about these kinds of matters to me, you're actually mouthing a set of propagandistic claims that are made on the right in the United States, and they do not have a foundation in fact.
Europeans come to this continent, literally ethnically cleanse the indigenous population out of existence, kill them on a scale that has hardly been equaled, and refer to them as savages. Who's the savage? The first time I encountered this was in a little town in Massachusetts called Deerfield. It's a reconstruction of what that little town looked like in colonial America. And in front of each house is a plaque that explains something about this house. And then description. On the 18th of October of 1702, the savages attacked. The first time I saw this, the savages. You come in here, destroy everything these people have, and they are the savages. That's an interesting move.
It is.
You know?
I hadn't thought of that before.
Think about it.
I think I was the first person to talk about white genetic annihilation in those terms, and that racism is ultimately a total system for white genetic survival and to prevent white genetic annihilation on a planet that has the genetics and the demographics that exist on third planet from the sun, which is planet Earth. So I was the first to put it in those terms, and my thesis has not been refuted. I would say that if my definition is understood, that racism, white supremacy is the fear on the part of people who classify themselves as white about white genetic annihilation and the concern for white genetic survival.
So the question was, out of the entire world's population, what percentage is white? There are people who said 60, 80. Somebody even said 90. Do you know what the real answer is? It's 7%. 7%. That means they don't even have the numbers to keep up. What that means is either we're letting them keep it up or we're actively helping them keep it up because they don't have the manpower to do it by themselves. What if we all collectively said, I don't want to be in a place or support the ideas of whites? It would be over. There's too many of us versus them. It would be over. This is such a game changer for me. This is like the moment where I heard the word colonizer. Or even when I saw how they treated Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. 7%? They're only there because we keep them there. That's crazy!
Okay, I thought this was a very interesting DM that I just got. And it says, "Hi, Issa. Hope you're doing okay. I love most of your videos and perspective. I don't agree with everything you say, but your perspective is so valuable." But by the way, first things first, I haven't said this in a while. If you follow me and you agree with everything I say, you need help. You're a cultist. You need help. If you agree 100% with everything I say since you've been following me, you need help. You need Holy Ghost fire. You have a cult mentality. Because I know I've said some shit and then woken up a day later or like a few days later and go, okay, that was fucked up. I should never have said that. And I'll go in the comments and I see people like 100% bro, and I'm like, okay, these people got issues. But anyways, since I was curious about your thoughts, the military-industrial complex on a global level, and how capitalism runs on violence, and how a lot of African countries are dependent because we have no robust defense industries. First things first, I wanted to say is, I've been saying this for a while. There are only two groups of black people in this world who have access to weapons. Do you know who those black people are? They're the only group of black people who have been enslaved and occupied longer than any black people. South Africans and black Americans. Do you know why black Americans and South Africans have access to weapons? It has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with the fact that should the day come when South Africans or black Americans decide to rise and seek vengeance for what was done to them, they need to make sure there's a system for the whites to defend themselves. So, military-industrial complex. For those of you who are Nigerian, this is probably the first time you're hearing this. Military-industrial complex is basically a whole system set up where where it's a system of capitalism for military, meaning there are American companies right now that figured out a new missile, but they need to sell that missile. They need to make money off of those missiles. So they go, well, we've made these missiles. They're amazing. They can kill anybody, but we have to do something. And then the owner of the company that created the missile will put $50 million into Trump's re-election and then go, you see my 50 million? We'll talk when you become president. And then Trump becomes president and go, okay, so we got these weapons. We need to test them somewhere. And Trump is like, all right, let's see. This got to be somewhere we can test it. And go, oh, look. Those stupid Nigerian Christians, they think we actually love them. Let's go bomb all of them. Take their oil, take their gold, okay, we don't have cobalt. We have iron, we have zinc, oil, gold. We have a bunch of shit too. But you get the point. So they say that, and then they now tell all the senators, okay, we need you to start tweeting. In 6 months, we're going to go into Nigeria to test these weapons because we got these weapons and they cost $30,000 for each one. And we need to buy 50,000. Of the 50,000 that we need to buy, we just need to have 20,000 in, set up. So we need to blow 30,000 somewhere. The Nigerians want us to come save the Christians. And by the way, Africa is the only continent on this planet that does not have authority to manufacture their own weapons. The only group of people that have been enslaved signed a treaty that said we will never build our own weapons. It goes, I'd also be interested in hearing your thoughts on the network state that Peter Thiel is invested in. Oh yeah, that's... So the phone I have right now, you know what? I wouldn't network Peter Thiel. Okay, so Putin, I like this. So there's a Russian spy that came to America in the 80s, and he came with a book, with a whole plan on how to destroy America. I can't remember. I'll look it up and I'll make a video about it later when I'm a little more sober. He had a book that was done by, like, it was not a book, but it's like the Russian government had this whole thing on how to destroy America. Go find that. Go and find it and read it. Yo, everything you're watching in America, you will find out that shit was written in every single. The only reason I'm not that happy about it is in that book, it talks about how one of the ways of destroying America is creating racial tension. So Russia doesn't have black people, but for them, they said, hey, we need to create. Can you see America? Everything that book, everything it said about destroying America, point for point. Go look it up. So yes, that is in Russia. Russia basically found Trump, and they're like, oh, we're going to use this fucker to destroy our long-term enemies. China is down with it, but Peter Thiel, as she said, Peter Thiel is invested in creating a police state. So what do I think? I think Peter Thiel realizes he's not strong enough or powerful enough to stop it. So what he's doing is he's still doing what he's doing and slowly integrating with Russia and China. So at some point, our big tech bros in America will have allegiance to either Russia or China, but everything remains as is in America. It's just the people that control us will eat. The people who control us will be given the information to Israel, Russia, and China.